Indiana ABA Institute. I have a degree in mathematics. Did not go that route, so I'm a registered behavior technician at Indiana ABA Institute. Not sure if anybody knows what a behavior technician is with ABA. I don't know if anyone has discussed it. So pretty much, this is the best example. This is how I was taught it. ABA is how you teach autistic children, but we work with all types of behavioral children. So we do programming and we do programming to teach them different things. So the best way, a child goes into a store and you tell them before they go into the store, hey, you know, you can't have anything out of the store when we go in here, so when we go in here, don't ask. But when they get into the store, they throw this tantrum and they're screaming and they're yelling, and so to get them to be quiet, you give them what they want. So now you've reinforced that behavior. You've encouraged it. Now this child knows, hey, every time I go into the store, I scream and I yell, I get something I want. So every time I go into the store, I'm going to do this. So ABA is the way to stop that behavior. So every time you go into the store, hey, you're not going to get anything. So you're just pretty much going to ignore the behavior. You're going to let the child cry. You're going to let them scream. And pretty much eventually they'll stop. I didn't get anything when I screamed and yelled. So you can try another way. So we'll give you alternative ways to pretty much help the behavior. Hey, you can ask nicely, or hey, the next time you can get something out of the store. But screaming and yelling is not going to get you what you want. So we teach different things like that. I'm an RBT. I've been at Indiana ABA Institute for, this will be my 6th year. So I've been doing this quite a bit of time. Yeah. So my first thing, so I know that we were talking, yes, you have a question.
Can you tell us your name again, please?
Jessica Harrison.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Usually people who do ABA, usually children that do it are autistic children, but it's worked on other types of children. We get a lot of foster children with behavioral issues. We're just giving them an alternative to some of the behaviors they've learned. To get in their way of screaming and yelling, we're going to give you an alternative. You can ask for this, or you can tell me what you want without screaming and yelling. So it's kind of like we're giving you a choice, and we're going to teach you a different way to say this, or mand is kind of like pointing if they don't have any verbal cues. You know, we'll do like little pecks and things like that they can point at, or just sign language. We're just kind of teaching you an alternative of asking for what you want. So
before you go on, PECs, we talked about the PECs. It's a communication thing with the pictures. So if you didn't remember that, that's what that is.
So some children, it's just too hard for them to sign language. You'll get kind of like a board, and usually on a piece of paper, and some of the things that they know that they want, you'll have pictures of things. Like if this child always wants popcorn, you'll put a little picture of popcorn, and you'll tell them, you know, this is popcorn. You'll have them point to it, and as soon as they point to it, you'll give them the popcorn. That way they're learning to, you know, ask for things with the pictures, and if they do that, then it'll usually stop a couple behaviors. That is where I'm kind of going into we have 4 functions of why behaviors happen. One is escape. So children usually have, or anybody, usually have behaviors because of escape. They're trying to escape a task. You're asking them to do something. Hey, can you clean your room? So they'll have a problem behavior. They'll scream, they'll cry, or they'll go to sleep. It can be anything. I've seen children, hey, I don't want to do anything, so they just ignore you. They're being non-compliant. They're just not going to do anything. So that it's escaping the task that they're supposed to be doing. Another one is sensory, which is they just need that stimulation. Sometimes you'll see children who kind of like do the lights, and their eyes are going back and forth at their lights, and they're just getting a sensory feel. So they're having a behavior, and it's not that they mean to, it's just something they need. They need that sensory to kind of go. So that's how they're functioning. And it usually happens in a lot of autistic children. Another one is tangible. They want something. So they're having a fit, and instead of hey, I want the popcorn, but I don't know how to tell you I want this popcorn because I'm nonverbal. They're just screaming and yelling on the floor, or they're doing something else, and you don't know that they want a tangible item. They want this item, and unless you teach them how to say it or point to it, then they won't know. So they usually want an item. And attention. That's the last one. Usually you'll have a behavior for attention. So some children, we get a lot with foster children, where they want attention. They haven't gotten it at home, and the way they got it at home is to pretty much misbehave, bite, kick, whatever that got them that attention. I'm gonna keep doing it because that got me the attention before. So I have a couple, just a couple examples with children. They didn't get what they wanted, so they have these extreme behaviors of kicking, head banging, hitting on the floor, biting you, attacking, and that's how they're getting your attention, because I wanted your attention. I didn't know how to tap you or tell you or call your name, so I'm just gonna misbehave. Any questions about that?
No, but I want to say, does anybody recognize those words? To an acronym that we learned? E, escape. A, attention. T, they want something tangible.
Yeah.
Or S, they need some sensory or they're overstimulated, right? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
C, yes.
I could tell.
Love it. Reinforce, that's awesome.
Next. So I was brought in to do some kind of blocking methods. That's why I'm kind of comfortable. I'm glad they're a little comfortable to go into some blocking things. We're gonna talk about like de-escalation strategies first. So a couple of things that we'll talk about before a person or a child gets escalated to their max and you're having to fully calm them down. You wanna try to catch that calm down method before. You wanna catch them, you wanna get them a little calm beforehand. So a child is worked up, you can tell they're getting worked up. And the first thing I'll say is that you have to know a child or their family and what their wants or needs is before, I would say, do a lot of things. So a lot of my success comes from I connect, and they call it pairing in ABA, where you pair and you connect and you just build a really good relationship. And they say to build that best relationship is by not telling them what to do. That's the best way. We called it not placing demands. So for a long period of time, we're supposed to do 40 hours where you don't tell the child what to do. Sometimes it can go longer. So we'll have times, like at my job, I've had a child, we haven't told her what to do for 2 months. Because we're trying to just build this connection. If we don't tell her what to do, then she'll build this connection with us, and she's like, well, they're just a friend. And they usually pretty much work better that way. Just anybody. And I've seen it work all types, just with children in general. You just don't tell them what to do, and they're like, oh, okay. They're not telling me what to do, but when you finally do, they're more likely to do it because they're just, it's like, oh, this is my friend. It doesn't really matter. And some children, you tell them what to do, and that sets them off, gets them all worked up and upset. So the first thing I always say is like build that connection without best as possible without telling them what to do. And people are like, well, that's really hard. You telling a child to come this way, you just don't realize how much you tell a person what to do. Go there, look at this, stop. You have to try to think of little clever ways to not tell them what to do. It's really kind of hard, but it's just like an example of like if they're walking down the house or they're touching a plug and you don't want them to touch the plug, and the best way not telling them to touch that plug is, hey, look, I got this, you want to play with this? Or, just kind of give them something else that you're not telling them to not touch that plug, doing something they're not supposed to, but you're giving them something that they can kind of change what you don't want them to do. Same thing as, hey, we're not going to eat something off the ground. Hey, you can eat this. Do you want this? You can ask them questions, give them different alternatives, rather than kind of just keep placing demands and saying this, and that. Because sometimes that gets children worked up and they do not like that at all for some reason, which we've all been children at one time. You just don't want to be told what to do. So just build a connection with them the best that you can, and if you can build that connection, it makes it easier to know the child and know how to keep them calm. And then you'll know different things of what gets them worked up, especially if you communicate with the families or anybody. Hey, what ticks them off? Do they have any precursors? I had a child, her precursor, she did a vocalization of mama, 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 and right then and there you knew it's time to kind of take a couple steps back, give her some space, and see, because she's so worked up, it's a matter of time before she turns, it goes to another level. And then you have to try to, as soon as I heard that mama, then I gotta give her some space and try to figure out something to calm her back down. Otherwise, we were gonna go, and I don't know if she gave you this, it's a de-escalation, it's a crisis phase. So I didn't go into full detail about it, but when a person is working their way up, it goes up the mountain. And you can kind of tell when a person is worked up. So it's like I said, she gets a precursor, which is mama, she's getting close to her crisis, where she's about to be so worked up that you won't be able to, you have to, it's like I'm kicking, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm hurting someone, I'm attacking someone. You want to catch them before they get to the top of that mountain. So as soon as I hear that mama, that precursor, then I want to kind of stop talking, take a step back, let them calm down, give them some space, and try to prevent it from going over the mountain or at the top of that mountain. So that's the best way, just to know a child, just to kind of get to know them. Like I said, I knew that was a precursor. Every time we got that little vocalization, I knew that there was going to be something after that. If we didn't catch it beforehand, it was going to be hard to get her back down and And just one of her examples is like, this child did extreme head banging, and from probably 9 a.m. to 1, we're getting 2,000 head bangs. That's a whole lot. People don't realize how hard it is. I'm talking about to the point where we have other people crying because they're upset, because that's how intense this head banging is. So in order to stop the head banging, I just want to catch that. As soon as I hear that vocalization, I'm going to try to catch it before it gets here, so I don't have to have those problems and that head banging, and then I'm having to try to figure out how to stop it. And then we're so worked up, and then she doesn't want you to stop her from head banging. Now we're attacking you, or we're attacking other people, and then we're biting, and it's just easier to stop it right then and there on this side of the mountain.
So when you say that, you're saying, like, you're saying she gives that verbal cue. Is that where is that on the, like, I know you're pointing, but can you give us an actual example of what we are encouraged to do? I do see you saying a replacement behavior, so. Yeah,
so I can go through each one. So it says the baseline phase, engage. Caregiver response, engage to support them what they're doing. So I'm gonna just use this same child. She's playing with something, playing with a little light up toy, she's playing with it. You keep as engaged as possible. You play with them, hey, just back and forth. A lot of interaction, just like you would do anybody, just going back and forth. That's just your baseline, that's what you guys are doing. The next one says, listen to identify and remove the stimulus. You realize stimulus or trigger phase. You realize something's happening. She's starting to get a little worked up. Maybe she started a couple mama, or anything. Maybe that some certain children do like pinches. So they'll maybe pinch you once, and then you knew that, oh, that one pinch is that precursor. So you realize they're starting to get worked up, and you want to try to remove what is worked up or give them something to replace the behavior. So maybe we were playing, me and the child were playing, and I removed her toy, and then you can realize she started to go, mama. And so I'm going to ask her, well, what do you want? And if she says it's the toy, then maybe that can stop her from going and keep going up the mountain. So that's it's like you want to realize right here at this stimulus or trigger phase, what triggered her to change? What happened? So then as we go up, engage to offer options from baseline. It says escalation lower phase. So that's where I offer that option. Hey, tell me what you want. You want this? Maybe I can give her a PEX board, or maybe you can use your words, or maybe you can point and tell me what you want. So I realized she was worked up because she wanted this toy that I took away, but she didn't tell me. So I'm going to give her that option. Hey, you can tell me, you can point, you can sign, you can, anything that they can get to tell you what they want, so that you can kind of get at the, right here, the escalation lower the phase. So you want to lower it. The escalation higher phase, engage to cue a replacement behavior. And that's also, these are also close in I'm giving you the replacement behavior. Instead of, screaming or mama, ready to work up, hey, you asked for this. Thank you for asking. Here you go. You can always ask. Another kind of replacement behavior people like to do is like, instead of doing the easiest way to say it, a replacement behavior. So a child is kicking and screaming and they want your attention. Hey, you can just tap me. That's a replacement behavior. You were kicking and screaming, but all you wanted was my attention. I'm gonna replace that with just tapping. Something simple like that. Let me see another replacement behavior. A child is eating something, they have a couple pica, we have a child that eats a lot of grass. Maybe you can give a replacement behavior as, hey, you want something to eat, you can eat this. And if that's not what they want, maybe a different food. Like kale, give them a different kind of texture that they like that's kind of like grass. I don't know if people's lemongrass, it's like a flower, but it's edible. It's better than eating the grass outside. So I would give you that replacement when you're about to eat the grass. Hey, you don't have to eat this, but you can eat this. So just give them a positive replacement that they can use that too. So she's getting the ma from the toy. You can just say, hey, you can ask me, I'm replacing it. Crisis phase. So at this point in time, if they've reached the crisis stage, that meant none of this stuff worked. You have reached the top of your mountain that she's gotten escalated. She's mama. It's worked. She's worked up. She's really worked up. At that point in time, you just kind of want to take a step back and kind of give them their space. You don't want to talk. You don't want to give them any verbal conversation. You just kind of want to feel them out. And that is how you are seeing what their next move is. And I'm not sure on how intense certain people and their behaviors you guys will be dealing with. You might see all types of things. It might not ever get as bad. I'm giving you guys like a serious case because it's the easiest. But if that person or this person has reached this phase, you kind of want to just stop talking, take a step back, give them space, but you're listening. So if this is the person here, I'm just taking enough where I can still see them, but I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna kind of get in a non-defensive stance. I don't want any of my hands up. I just kind of want to be calm and relaxed, and I just want to be standing there to see what their next move is gonna be. So that's, yes.
So you just try to be at their level?
No, if they're facing this way, so if I'm the person, I'm facing this way, I want to step behind them and off to the side. I want to see them, but I want to step behind them. I just kind of want to see, because if I'm behind them, I can see a little more, and I can also hear them, and I can get the cues of what they're going to do next. So if you want to get a little closer, like this way, so you can see their face, yes, but I definitely wouldn't be in their personal space at all. I want to people don't realize that a lot of people don't know what personal space is, and so they don't want you in their personal space and they don't know how to explain it, so just the best thing to do is step back. You'll know a child, some children like to be touched, and you know that's how they calm down. Most times they don't, and you just need to give them the space. You'll know the child, and if the person gives you information, you'll know, hey, in order to calm them down, you may need to give them a pat on the back, or you may need to do this, but the way it's going in the MANT training and just to do blocking, you just give them a space. You give them space, you step back, and you give them time. That is just how it all starts. So all of our blocking and everything starts with us giving them space. You give them space, you give them time, and you don't give any vocalizations, and you just kind of see what's going to happen next. That's the best way. And that's what it says, protect using the least amount of interaction necessary for safety. I'm just gonna step back, I'm just gonna stop, I'm just gonna kind of watch, I'm gonna listen. You'll realize maybe the precursor continued, the mom, maybe the person's crying. At this point in time, if I'm giving this child, she's mama, she's crying, I'm just gonna let her keep going. Maybe which what we do is we offer her a PEX board to see what she wants, but I'm not talking to her. I'm just gonna give it to her, see if she wants, or I'll ask her, hey, what do you want? If she doesn't say anything, I'll just step back and continue to let her kind of de-escalate herself. De-escalation phase, and that's where we're going down. It says, caregiver response, engage to structure the cooling off period. So that's kind of where I've already stepped back, I've given our space, we're just kind of see where it goes. If it's worked up and she's top and we've our scenario here with this child, she gets so worked up, we have to kind of enclose and kind of step back, and everybody has to remove themselves to protect her and protect other people. So we'll just let her calm herself down. And then when she's calm for enough time, then we'll ask her again, hey, what do you want? And if she tells us, then we knew that's what kind of calmed her down. And then we'll just kind of be like, okay, thanks for telling me what you want. Thanks for staying calm. And I give her exactly what she wanted. Once we realize, depending on the child, like this child is still kind of learning what calm down is, the child knows, we can offer, hey, you could have told me that. If you wanted this, you could have said, hey, I wanted this. And you used your words. You didn't have to, go whatever their behavior is, maybe biting, kicking. You could have just said, hey, I wanted this, to kind of change the behavior. So at that point in time, you're kind of engaging instruction in the cooling off period. They ask for the toy, so you're gonna kind of just remove things from out of the area, depending on the child. I'm gonna give them that toy. We're just kind of just relax. We're not gonna say too much. We're not gonna give them much vocalization. We're not gonna place any demands. We're not gonna tell them what to do. We're just gonna kind of let them continue to calm down with what they ask for. And then that's the stabilization phase. Listen to actively listen. And that's kind of also what I said. You're just kind of just sitting there. You're kind of listening. You're trying to figure out what are they calm? You've given them a toy. Are they calm enough that you can let them play with other children? Are they calm enough that you can let them go and roam? Are they calm enough that you can talk to them and tell them what to do? Or do you kind of still need to just sit there and relax? Give them something else. Hey, you like this blanket. Hey, you want your blanket. You can get this blanket to calm down. Something that you know that they like that may calm them down, or something that they wanted. You'll kind of know. Do they need to stay here and calm down, or should I have more time? Because they're still in that area where they can go back up the mountain. They're giving you those mamas, or the crying, or the pinching, or something else. And it's hard to say until you know exactly what the child is. And that'll just be more on knowing the family and what the family says. And sometimes families don't tell you what, they're just afraid to tell you that my child does this. Some families get really scared about that because then you might turn them down or just not accept their child, which tends to happen. So they won't tell you a behavior of a child, and you'll have to learn it on your own. So it's kind of just best to kind of just connect with them and see the best, which you can learn from a child. And some parents won't tell you because they're nervous that you might turn them down, and their child has been turned down, and another person has been turned away because of this behavior. So you kind of learn and kind of feel them out. And then if we get here, listen to observe and support. And that's kind of where you can add that, where I said if it's another child and they can talk, hey, you could have just told me that. We're talking to each other now. If they're verbal, hey, why were you upset? You were upset because of this? Okay, you could have just told me you wanted that toy. You didn't have to climb the mountain. That's all you had to do was tell me. That's kind of depends on the child. Some children or some adults, they can't talk, so they can't tell you. So you kind of just, that's post-crisis phase will kind of just depend on the person. If they can't, it's kind of like this phase doesn't really matter because they can't tell you. You can't really talk about it. Maybe as a group later on, like, hey, what could we have done differently so that we could have changed what happened? How did it happen too quickly? Could we have given more time, a little break, maybe a little chair or something like that? Anybody have any questions on this crisis phase?
It's not exactly a question, but for the purposes of this ministry then, can we assume that our best option when we're learning to know a child is if the child says, we're assuming that we have verbal, like I'm thinking of in kids rap or something.
Yeah.
This is too loud, I need to leave. That as a caregiver or a buddy, we need to assume when we're first getting to know that child that it's too loud, they need to leave. They are prompting you to say, I am escalating, I need to leave. Instead of saying, oh, well, you can stay here.
Yes.
Because that is their statement.
Yeah, and usually
for a higher functioning kid who's struggling to go, this is too much.
Yes. And some children will, and you will get to know the child. If they're saying that, you know, you can say, okay, thanks for telling me you want to go, and maybe give them some, hey, it's just too loud, I want to leave. And then eventually, as you know the child, then maybe you can give alternatives. Hey, we can put headphones on. Sometimes they have those
Right.
little blockers, and then you can give like different, you know, different things to offer them. Hey, we can turn it down, or you can go play over here. But when you first get to know them, I would just do what they asked. And if they say it's too loud, until you know alternative, I would just go ahead and allow them to leave. Because eventually, you don't want to hinder, or places are going to be loud. Sometimes you'll get places it's so loud you won't be able to leave. So you want to allow them to say, yes, I want to leave, but what if there's a spot where they can't leave?
Absolutely.
So then you want to give them that alternative. Hey, you can't leave this time, but you can listen to headphones. Or hey, you can't leave this time, but we can go over here. Or we can take a break. So you kind of just want to, as you get to know them, kind of feel that out.
Right.
But at the beginning, yes, I would allow them. But that's kind of just about, you know, filling them out and how long and how well do you know them. Some people, you know, there's kids that just can't tolerate this person, and they just won't tolerate anything from you. But they'll tolerate things from other people. And you'll just be like, okay, how did you do that? Yes. And that's where Chris said the kid whispers. I connect with all the kids at my job, where I just play with everybody. Because you just never know when you're going to change to a different client. So if I just connect with everybody, I'm just good all the way around, and then they're fine with me saying certain things to them. So I play with every kid like they're all my own, and I'm just playing with everybody. I'm just like a giant kid. And then when I do finally say, hey, we're going to stop this, they usually kind of straighten up a little bit. Or they don't give me as much hassle as they might. And they're like, well, how did you do that? Well, I just already connected with them, and so it usually helps. So, yes.
I have a question. So you said earlier on that there's times that you can take a season up to even 2 months that you're not making any requests or any demands on a child.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily a child, but an individual. So I won't say where. I have heard from an ABA center that they simply do not use the word no, period.
Yeah, that you're not supposed to use no in ABA. You're supposed to give them an alternative. We have, at ours, we do no thank you, but some just say don't say no. You don't say, because no makes children upset. You just give an alternative. Hey, I want to go this way. You can just say, hey, we can go this way. And we're not going to say no, we're just going to give them another choice. And the best way for me is like if somebody wants something, you know, no, I'm not going to do this. I'll just give them 2 different choices. You're getting a choice. You just want to pick something. It doesn't matter. Hey, I want to go over here. Well, you can go over here or you can go over here. Usually they'll go with your choice. Or, hey, I don't want to do that. You can count or you can read. Which one? It's just the choice that I think that they usually want. But yeah, we don't say no. And that's part of the placing demands. You just don't say no. You try to think of an alternative or a better way to say it. Because no is like a no.
After time, like when you've built up rapport with the individual at any point, that's another one of these things where I've had to really rearrange my thinking. I'm also thinking about safety issues. I mean, we live in a world that functioning people have to be able to hear the word no.
Oh, yes.
And I understand that we can make alternatives and we can make aversions, but eventually those all mean no.
Yes.
They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, that does mean no.
And I do understand that. It's just, I think the way ABA works for your pairing connection, so you build that connection, you don't say no, so you don't get that bad connection with them. You don't pair bad, because once you have a bad connection, you know, every time I'm with this person, she tells me no. So I don't like her because she told me no all the time. And I had a kid like this, you know, I had, woo, we just pair bad. He touched all the plugs. He did dangerous things that just kind of, I couldn't say no to, I had to say no. I'm like, no, don't do that. No, don't do this. And like, you know, I had to tell him I can't work with him because I've already told him no 1,000 times. He jumped in the toilets, he played in toilets, he unplugged the things. I had to say no to everything. And so we had this bad pairing, and we just didn't pair well because I told him no. At our clinic, we do allow us to say no, but we usually say you can say no, thank you. But it's just one of those things that clinics don't believe in saying no, because it just builds that bad connection. It's like, oh, you're always telling me no every time I do something. So it's like you try to think of another way. Eventually you kind of slide the word no in there, and they'll accept it. If you pair well, they'll accept it and it won't even matter. Because I've said no plenty of times, but it's also to make sure, it's to a child that I've had extreme pairing with, that I'm connected with. I know that, you know, we've had this trust. When I say stop, they'll stop, and things like that. Because there are different types of children, you just never know. We had a kid who ran all the time. All the time. Ran into the street, and it was just dangerous. And you could say no, and he would still run. And it was like a game. And sometimes you say no to people, that's attention. You told them no, and I got your attention because you kept telling me no, don't do something. And now I'm just building this connection, and I'm getting your attention, and I like this attention. No matter if it's good attention or bad attention, it's attention. And you told me no, so I'm gonna keep doing it, regardless. And so that's why they try to say, don't say no. Like I said, this child always ran, and it was just fun. And you could say, no, don't run, and he was just enjoying it. And I'm like, we had to think of a different way, because no matter what it was attention. So. Yes.
This might be more of a question for the group here, but the thing I'm wondering is, like you said, you get to have time playing with these kids for a long time. I help with kids rep here, and so like we just have whatever amount of time in kids rep. So a lot of times I do play with them, but it's not like it's a one-on-one, and I'm also really bad with names. It takes me a long time to get the names, so I'm not quite sure. Like maybe I'm not understanding how this group's gonna work. But say somebody brings a child, and I'm the buddy. How am I gonna connect? Like how? Because they don't know me from Adam really, unless it's hi when walking down the hallway or kids rap or whatever.
Okay, well, first of all, no one's gonna be dropped in, because, well, they might be dropped in, but that would be the exception to the norm. The kids who are gonna be buddied up are gonna be buddied up, after they've been brought into the program, into the ministry, where they're paired up.
Okay.
And then we already had a conversation with the family or the care providers with the buddies, so the person who drops in is gonna be the exception.
Okay.
It's not gonna be the norm. And the plan here is to have a buddy who's set with an individual
Okay. Good.
for, remember we had a 3 month, 6 month, or 9 month,
Yes.
or 12-month commitment. And so that way we're building that relationship. And I was thinking, obviously we're not gonna have the time or because I know that with ABA, you're like hours every day.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury here, but we certainly can build rapport, because we're gonna be with them for, extended weeks at a time. And that's
Okay,
part of the
that's
plan, is that we can get to know them
Good.
through an intake interview with the family, as well as staying with that individual for, as much as we can.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yep.
And it's not as, it shouldn't be as bad as just building that connection. At the way our clinic does it, we only get clients for like 3 or 4 hours. So some people, certain clinics they'll have this same child all morning for the whole week. And then they're like, well, I built this connection with this person the whole week. And so it's easier for them to just do 1 week of working with this child, and then the next week they can go and just place demands, start, hey, do anything, and that person or the child will accept it. Ours, we don't do that. We'll have the child maybe 2 to 3 times a week, maybe not even that. And so that's why I said, I say 2 months. I haven't had this child but maybe once or twice. So I've had her for 2 months and I haven't said anything or told her what to do. It's because I only had her once or twice. So it'll take a little bit longer. And you can kind of do alternatives. Like I said, you don't tell them what to do, but if you give the replacement behaviors, if you know that they're doing something they're not supposed to, just give them something that, hey, don't drink that. Hey, you want water instead? Or, they're kicking someone. You want to kick a ball. Just give them something to replace what they're doing. Instead of kicking a person, kick a ball. Instead of drinking, this is a horrible example. I've had this happen. Out of the toilet because they're thirsty, you go to the drinking fountain. just give them a replacement of what you don't want them to do. I know, that sounds, I've had kids do that where they're drinking out of the water at the toilet. I'm like, you can just go to the drinking fountain, because I can't tell them no, so it's like, yes. But usually, eventually, you'll build in where you can say no, and you'll know when the time is right. You'll be able to tell, did they reach that escalation stage? They got the escalation, that meant it wasn't, they didn't want you to say no and they didn't like it, or you don't have the connection to tell them no.
So this is where, by the way, like super practical, thank you. All of this that you just said is super practical for us, but I'm thinking for like Jeff or the folks who are in the sanctuary as greeters or ushers, they're not gonna have, well, they might get the privilege of building a relationship with individuals who are in the sanctuary or in the hall, so you're chumming with them quite a bit to build that connection, so that you might have permission in the sanctuary if someone's like escalating in the sanctuary or in, you know, anyway, so you might or might not have that relationship, but that's where like an inclusion champion in the sanctuary, you would be able to say, I don't have a relationship with this individual, I need to go find, you know, a red shirt or find the name tag, you know, someone who has their name tag with them, and that way they can come and help you because they'll know those triggers and redirection tools and such, so.
Yes. You'll know just replacement behaviors. You'll get to know them. As you know them, and like I said, it usually helps to ask the family or ask the person who has a behavior plan. Just let me know something. Some people will, some won't. It's just kind of feeling them out.
Well, you said something really important too, and that is if we are not one-on-one buddies with individuals to chum with all of them, or if we have kids who are, or adults who are in the sanctuary who aren't necessarily our paired up buddy, it's important for us to continue to build relationships with them because you just never know when you might be needed. So you just never know. So I thought, ooh, great idea.
Yeah, I said,
Just say that one to
friendly
us.
with all the children that way. At any point in time, I won't be too off guard when I get a child that's just, because they'll give you, you know, usually when you change, they'll give you time to connect with that person. But if I'm already ahead of the game, it won't take as long and it won't be as bad of a transition. Because some people, you know, usually people don't like that change, and especially a lot of special needs children, autistic children, or foster kids, they just don't like that change at all. And so they want everything to be the same. They don't want anybody new telling them what to do. We just build a connection. Keep the connection the whole time, speak to them. You know, it doesn't have, it could be something brief where I'm just kind of, hey, what are you doing? Little poke, little play, hey, I'm just in your way, I'm just joking with you. Then you just keep a connection the whole time.
We didn't tell you, by the way, that we run until 8:25, so I just wanted to say, in case you want to get through stuff.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're moving slow, I'm saying, ooh, we didn't tell you what time, so.
Okay. So we'll go into some of the blocking methods. This is where this kind of crisis mountain goes, where this person, this child, has reached their top. They're worked up. I'm going to keep using this example of this child. They're worked up. They've given you this precursor. You kind of realize this. You want to always get into a stance, and we go by this stance. We put it as a square. And I would say about shoulder width apart, where you put your feet shoulder width apart and you have your hands relaxed. So you kind of just want to be relaxed and you kind of want to see the person. So I will use this chair as the person. You get back a little bit and you kind of just be in a relaxed stance. You're kind of just feeling them out and you just kind of want to get in this stance and seeing what they're going to do. If you stay in this stance, then you're kind of prepared to move. If they move, then you can kind of move. If they move forward, you can move forward. If they move back, you can move back. You just kind of it's just a subtle stance. You don't want your hands to be up. That kind of makes people worked up and you just never know. And you're not on guard. If they kind of hit at you, your hands are right here. You can't block and you can't do anything else because you're kind of like this. You just want to be relaxed. You don't want to be intimidating to them, and you just kind of want to watch them. So if you're in this stance with your feet shoulder width apart, hands down, then you'll kind of be ready. Some people like to have their hands here, which is perfectly fine, which they put like a diamond. They're kind of just relaxed right here. I just like to have my hands down. That way you're not intimidated by me. I'm already tall. I just want to just be relaxed as possible. So.
Are you facing the person and making eye contact? Because that makes a difference.
No, I'm going to be, if they're facing this way, I'm going to be off to the side. So I can see their face, and I'm gonna be about a hand apart. That way, if I do need to step up a little closer, I can. If I need to step back, I can. You also want to protect yourself, and if there are other people around, you want to protect them. But if it's just me and this person, I kind of just want to protect myself. Usually they know what they're doing, so I'm just going to kind of step back from them and feel them out. I just want to feel if they're going to attack or if they're going to just be calm. If you'll be in this stance, you'll kind of feel it out as you see them, and you'll know. So it's just a kind of shoulder width apart, calm, relaxed hands. And they do recommend, they call these Barbie hands. Chris calls them Barbie hands. Other people call them puppet hands, whatever you want to call them. They recommend that your hands be like this. That way, if a person comes at you, you can block. And I always block with my hand, the palm of my hand towards me. That way, it's not considered you hitting at them by accident, because you're blocking and then they hit at you and then you kind of are trying to push back and now it looks like you're hitting. So I always block kind of like this. If it happens this way, it's fine, as long as your hands are like this in a Barbie stance. There's no way that it can be perceived as something different. So if I'll give an example. This is the one based off Chris. We had a kid, a young lady. She was really worked up. We were in like an area with the TVs right here. She's trying to get at the TV, and Chris is kind of trying to stop her from getting at the TV. And so she was pretty much attacking at Chris, and I just happened to be walking by, and so it's just a reaction. I just kind of blocked, and just kind of turned her this way, and she just kind of walked back. And so that's kind of, you just want to be in this stance where you just block, just stand here and you put your hands up and you block. You can block either way. I just prefer to do this way. And I kind of just block her. She's hitting at Chris, so her block goes this way. Then I can just push your hand with my arm and just kind of go that way. And usually wherever your hands will go, you'll go too. But you want to kind of stand.
You want me to go in the corner where I was? Getting looked.
So yeah, so if she's trying to hit at Chris, I just kind of blocked her from hitting Chris, and I'm in this stance where I'm far enough where I don't want her to hit me, but I'm longer. A lot of people aren't as tall as me, so it's usually easier. I'm just gonna block, and then I'll just kind of take this other hand and guide her around. So you want to switch and give her side. So if you're coming at you,
I'm walking this way.
She's coming, you're
So
coming.
yeah, I just block her. You just take one hand, you just kind of block, and then I just take the other hand and just kind of turn her around.
Well, that looks fun.
I think we need to start working out, everybody. You're hitting her.
And that's the same thing if a person, yes.
Okay, we're gonna play, Kevin and I are gonna play worst case scenarios.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in somebody's sitting in sanctuary
Mhm.
and they have a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had that happen one day, and everyone wanted to rush and and have the individual removed, and we just says, no, just smile, get the dreaded look off your face, smile, and just look away, don't look. Just everybody's watching you react to that. Now the question is say they're yelling, screaming, kicking, refusing to leave, so the parents are there, or maybe it could be the buddy that was up there at that time. Obviously, you're going after the parents, then you're gonna, search for the parents. But what would we do as security? We're there to assist.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the first thing everybody wanted us to do was to remove the individual.
Yes.
But I knew
Mhm.
the family, so we just said, hey, just turn around, and service kept on going. So that was handled well.
Yes.
But we didn't do anything, really. We were there to assist, but there was nothing.
We call this a planned ignored. A lot of people just want to jump up and kind of stop a situation, but in ABA we like to ignore, and I'm pretty good at ignoring, but it's really hard when you're in a place where everybody wants to look. Like a lot of times the best, like you're saying,
Like in
everybody,
church.
where everybody
When the
wants to
pastor's
look and
preaching.
everybody, yes, and it's hard
Can't
for
ignore
you.
it at that point.
I
What do you
know.
do?
So we tell them to kind of planned ignore, where you just kind of ignore it and to let them see if they can calm down. If you ignore it and kind of give them, hey, what do you want to do? If they will not, or were they sitting?
Yes.
Okay, if they were sitting down, you can, it's called an escort. So Chris, you want to stay here? Where you kind of escort them up. You'll take your hand and you'll put it out here on their arm and you'll kind of just escort them out. And you'll always keep your hand on the back, on their back. And if they want to go the opposite direction that you want them to go, you guide them. So if she wants to go this way and I want Chris to go that way, I'm just gonna take that arm and then I'm gonna switch back and forth with my hand. So whichever way I wanna go, I wanna take that arm and I wanna move her. And I'll just keep my one hand on her side and one hand on the arm. And I'll just kind of escort them right out the door.
Yeah, but if they're up in the stadium seating and they're 3 rows from the back, you know, that's where this happened. That's why I'm
Well,
asking.
if
You
the
know.
parent is there,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story.
Right, and that's where, basically, they're gonna be calming down the congregation and not the individual.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll talk about how you do
yeah.
that. Okay.
So let's assume that the parent is saying, please help me.
Yeah.
Then if that's the case, then this is exactly how we can help, or we're giving the parents the place to do that maneuvering, and we're providing the calming
Calm.
atmosphere.
So is it safer to go up this, try to guide them up the stairs and out the back, or down the
That's
stairs
a great idea.
and out? Because if they're up in the stadium seating,
Yeah.
you can exit through the top, so I don't know if it
Yeah,
would
but
be
if they're
safer.
on the west, or if they're on the east side of the sanctuary, by doors A and B, there's
Oh, there's no
none
exit
back
out there?
It's only
But if
between.
there was an exit, you're right.
Yeah.
It would be easier to go up and then let
That's
the
good.
fit happen outside in the stairwell instead of in the
Well,
sanctuary.
I'm just wondering, like, just for safety, so they're not,
Yeah.
if they're already all agitated and you're trying to guide them downstairs, it would be easier to guide them upstairs.
Right,
Can you
yeah.
answer her question as far as like from a physical perspective?
Do you guys,
Training perspective?
well, we do a transport. Not sure if you guys want to do transports.
You want to that means that you pick them up and carry them to wherever.
Wouldn't that be the parents' discretion?
And
They
then
can do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some are just gonna be too physically big, like my boy would be too big to be picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do it, our transport, it takes 3 to 4 people, which makes it safer. And I've seen very, very tiny people pick up very, very
That
big.
makes me nervous.
Well, yeah, they had help.
Yeah, like when we do our transport, I've been transported like where we have to do it with other people, and I've been transported by people who are like this tall. As long as when you're transporting, I've done it with really short people, but it's just hard. To have 2 tall people doing a transport on arms and or a tall person and a short person, that's what makes it hard. If you guys are both equally balanced and one person has an arm and another person has an arm, and you guys are both close to the same height, it's not too bad. It's not too bad where they'll be too heavy or anything.
I would think that's like a super extreme
Yeah.
situation, and that means you have not not intercepted these precursors,
Yeah.
and we are, like, everything's beyond. I mean, at that point, I would assume that that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, if you've gotten to a transport, like when we transport, it's some extreme things to make us wanna transport.
And if that is the case, we'll train accordingly, but I can't really see that being something current. I'm hoping that we will be able to de-escalate and not have to get there. Of course, I don't think, do we have individuals at this point that would be in that range? I think they have more fleeing, like, are you gonna talk about how we prevent a runner? So, do you guys think we have any?
I can't think of anybody right now. I mean, Alex is big, but he might get loud, but usually, you know, like Melody can say, do you want to color? Okay, come on, let's go color.
Yeah.
I just can't think of anybody that we would have to.
You guys might know more than me, that's why I'm looking at you. Okay, alrighty, so.
And usually,
I'm praying no.
Yeah. And usually, I don't know the scenario from last time, but if you ask them maybe what was causing them to scream and yell, you usually can catch kind of change it.
I think he did want to go to the bathroom.
Replacement.
Yeah.
He wanted to
go to the
go,
bathroom.
he wanted to go to the bathroom on the
He wanted to go on
pew.
the
Yeah, I was
pew.
gonna say, he didn't want to physically
Oh.
go to the
And his
bathroom.
mom said, no, you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so he was sitting there throwing a fit, and she kept going, no, I can see that look. No, you're not.
Yeah. So at that point, we just had to be clever. It's just how clever can you be? It's usually, it's like a trick, but it's kind of, what can you give them that's kind of to get them to do what you're asking? So.
That we will need to become masters.
And that is usually when we're transporting, it's usually because of a bathroom reason. I will say that. If you're going to have a serious accident, I would lead with transport. That helps. Because it's not fun to up, I guess. So I'd rather transport you than do that. So, she was talking about fleeing. We have runners. That's also when we do blocking. So you are in that stance, you know them, you know that they're about to run, your body is the blocking method. They're about to run, you just turn. You become your block. Your body is the block. They'll run into you. And you just kind of keep blocking them wherever they go. They run that way, you kind of pivot that way. This means you have to be pretty quick on your feet.
So are you doing any verbal prompts when you're blocking? Or
No,
are you
I'm not going to say anything. They're worked up at this point in time. Me talking is just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of keep moving. They run, I'm going to block. They go this way, I'm just keep blocking. I'm not even going to talk to you. No talking involved.
Now if you're sitting, because I've had to do that before, where you throw your arm out real quick to block, but make sure you're grounded so you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah. 'Cause
And what if they get past you?
then you'll be running.
I will say that you'll be running.
Yes.
Have your track shoes on.
Yes. I will say though, depending on the person, if the running is one of those games where they like I said, I had a child, they love to run. This was a game. He would get to the end and look at you and be like, are they coming? And then you'll kind of have to kind of figure out, are we going to chase them, or will that child stop, or will this person stop? Some people just sometimes they'll just stop. It was a game, and you didn't play their game, so I'm not even going to chase them. Maybe kind of communicate with the other person. They're running that way, and then they can stop them. And if you guys talk ahead, because it's just not fun to chase someone all the time. And so, like I said, that kid always liked to run, and I'm like, I'm over this. So I just, hey, can you catch him at the other end? And I'll stand here, and he'll be watching me, and he's so busy watching me trying to chase him, and there's someone right there already stopping. So maybe some type of communication. We have walkies that helps. Sometimes you can yell out, hey, this person's running. Then you can block them on the other end, and you don't have to chase them. But just realize sometimes if you chase them, it could be a game that you're reinforcing. And so they like it. Now every time they do this, they're gonna keep trying to make you run because they liked it and it was fun for them. And now let's play this game every time I come.
We actually have runners currently.
Yes, I had to get one of the Masters Commission kids one time because I don't run. I'm like, and they saw the kid and they got him for. I'm like, I can't run. You do that.
Yeah, and you guys you just kind of yell out, hey, they're running, and then that way it's not a game. But once it becomes a game, sometimes it's hard to stop that game, and it takes a lot to get
So
them to
there's
stop.
two different kinds of runners I've seen. One is because of some sort of disability, and the other is an emotional need, and they feel that they're not heard or validated, and so then everything will escalate, and it becomes a whole different kind of,
Yes.
not necessarily a, what would you even call that?
If they're running from what?
So they
It could be
feel
like a sensory thing.
No, I mean like they're just angry and they're annoyed, and it really isn't about.
Oh, it's just a little bit.
It's
It's escape. They want to
Yeah.
escape because they
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
So then that would be like where you're really tuning in and listening to de-escalate and let them feel valued and heard.
And that's when you gotta get that replacement.
Yeah,
Once
in
you
that
realize
space.
it, once you realize what they were running about, you can kind of tell them, like, hey, you could have told me this. You wanted to leave. Sometimes you just might need to give someone a break. And so, hey, you wanted to leave. You needed a break. You can tell me you need a break before you run. If you can catch them beforehand, if you know that they're about to run, if you need a break, you can tell me. Just offer them that break, and that way you don't have to chase them. You wanted a break, I'll give you this break, we can leave. And after this 5-minute break, we can come back. So yeah, some, they just don't know how to explain it. But if you have runners, I would just kind of try to be ahead of the game. Just take some step backs. If you know that they're this way, if you want to face them this way, so you can cut them off with your body, then yes. If you know that they're gonna run and you just feel like it, maybe start communicating. Hey, I think they're in that mood to run. Hey, if you see them run, that way when they're running, you just, that like Chris said, you stick that one arm out. Some people have caught up with a leg out, anything to just stop you as quickly as you can to stop them and keep them from running. Usually it takes a group effort, especially with runners. Runners are just one of those things that takes everybody to stop, especially if you don't want to chase them. Yes. So, any questions on? Any other ones that you definitely want explanation on, like hair pulling, biting?
If they throw something at you, like a chair or something like that, like I learned way back to like do a circle motion or something like that. Is that wrong or right or something like that?
Everything I always say in this stance of blocking, if they are at that top of their crisis phase and you know that they like to throw big objects, I would try to get away from those things. That's when you want to that's when they call it planned. You're planning to get out of the area with those big objects. I'm gonna remove things. If that means I call someone and say, hey, could you remove all of the chairs out of the room?
Okay.
I'm gonna remove all the chairs. That way I don't have to block chairs. You can still block with your hands. If they're throwing stuff at you, you can block. I don't like to block like that. I just want to just remove everything so you don't have to throw anything at me. So I try to think ahead for that reason. So if you cannot remove the chair, maybe kind of get your body on this chair. You're still in this stance, but they can't get, you can't get this chair without having to kind of get it away from me. Or maybe I'll move it and the chair's behind me and you have to go through me to get through the chair. So kind of think of that kind of way, especially if a chair, I would do that. I would move it behind me or I would have someone move it out of the area.
Okay, question. We are planning to have a decompression space, like a room. How would you suggest that we utilize that space? And then how would you suggest for us to move an individual to that space?
In that space,
I'm assuming if we've de-escalated or we recognize they need that, that's gonna be an easy. I'm talking about when it's not so easy.
When it's not easy. I would offer them different things that they can have in that area that is not hard. I don't like to give people things that could hurt me or other people. So maybe Play-Doh, coloring books, things that if they throw it at you, it won't hurt. So getting them there may be hard, but if you have things in there they're willing to do, the coloring books, the Play-Doh, stuffed animals, what else?
Pillows.
Yeah, things that are really soft that if they throw it at you, it's just not gonna matter. I'm fine with it being thrown at me if I'm that far in that escalation. So I would kind of, hey, if you need time to calm down and they just don't leave, hey, we can go over here to color, or do you want to color? Do you want to play with pillow? You want to rest? You want to play with Play-Doh? Give them, try to figure out what they like.
In that room.
Uh-huh.
To get them out.
And then offer it, and then make sure it is as soft as possible. And if it's not soft, then you know that child's not a person who throws things. Because I've had a kid who threw everything. It was like, we just can't play with any toys. They threw everything. It launched. We got people were getting concussion after concussion because he threw everything. He just didn't know how to say he was all done. And so we were going to give it, hey, you can tell us you're all done. But it was too late. You were already getting launched at your head. It was too late. It was just through everything. So you just kind of want to give them different things that you know that they like, that is soft, unless you know that they know how to say that they're all done with something. Unless you know they're just not a thrower, or they don't harm or throw toys or objects. Yes.
How do I word this? That that sounds unique. You're talking about this individual, like, they didn't know how to communicate, I'm done with, let's say, a cup or a bowl or something, so they throw it when they're done. But if I'm throwing something at you specifically, that's not just simply I'm done, that's singling you out.
It's I'm done, but also I'm getting attention. I'm done with it, but I'm also getting attention at the same time. So I have the iPad. I'm done with the iPad, but you're right here, and I really wanted your attention, and it's fun, and I'm getting a reaction out of you if I throw it at your forehead. That's kind of how it was. It was like, he didn't know how to say he was done, but I'm getting attention if I throw it at you, and I'm getting any type of attention. And it was like people had reinforced all of the negative behaviors. We threw all types of things. We threw water. It didn't matter what it was. Be a cup of water. Right at you, and you just be like, okay, you could have just said you were done. But I got your attention, and I was all done. Both at the same time. So it's kind of like, you'll have to kind of feel that out and know the child. I just knew that child. Some children will scream, or some people will just scream and yell. And they just didn't know how to say they were done. Some may break it. And you don't know when they're done with certain things. To just give that alternate, that replacement behavior, just to say I'm all done. Yes.
Is there an ABA standard for self-injurious behavior, hitting yourself?
Yes.
Is that something that we should try to address in a child who is, slamming themselves?
Because they will have some of that.
Yeah.
I think that is likely. I've not seen the list of kids who have signed up or children who need assistance, but the ones that I know of tend to be a much lower key group.
Yeah.
Lots of high anxiety, I can see them hitting themselves or kicking themselves, those kinds of
Yes.
actions instead of throwing chairs, biting themselves.
Self-injurious behaviors we tend to ignore. You just ignore it. Most of the time people don't realize if I'm biting myself, if you look right there that they're biting their hand, it's calloused over. It's not hurting them anymore. They've done it so long that it's not harming them. It's just, now it's become sensory. I'm used to it. Every time I was worked up and I had anxiety, I was biting my hand. Now I'm used to it and I just do it every time I'm worked up. But it's so calloused over. It's not harming them. It's not harming you. I would just ignore it. I wouldn't try to stop it, because then at this point in time, you're stopping it. Now, what's their replacement behavior? You have to make sure you're giving them replacement behavior. So, hey, I wanted you to stop biting your hand, but you didn't give me anything to replace it. So maybe I'm going to bite you. So that's why I try to say, if you don't have a replacement behavior for it, they've been going so long probably doing it, I would just kind of leave it alone. Now, if it's something,
Like headbanging.
yeah, headbanging, that's something you definitely want to stop if you think it's that intense. Like I said, we ignore self-injurious behaviors. It's not harming you. But headbanging is one of those things we do not ignore. We will ignore it if it's hitting the hand with the head, because usually it's probably a hard bump there, and it's calloused over also. But if it's headbanging on the walls and you can hear it, headbanging on the floor, best thing to do is kind of give a mat or something soft that they can just keep hitting, and I would just kind of still ignore it and then offer a place, hey, if you need a break, give them something, a replacement behavior. But I would just maybe stick a pillow there, stick a pillow where their head is hitting the wall or something on the floor, kind of just let it go, because usually it's been going on long enough that you just don't know, if you don't have a definite replacement behavior for it, what you might change it to. So, and they've probably done it for quite a bit of time, depending on the age.
Would that be something that we would talk to the care provider or family to ask for advice?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I am not disagreeing at all, but would that be a place where we talk to the family to say?
Yeah, you can ask.
Like, they may already have a replacement behavior that we can reinforce when they're with us. We're not gonna obviously change them in that 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of helps maybe just getting them used to it, like a biter. People who just like to bite. If you, or have you ever seen those kids who bite their shirts constantly, and they're just in their hole, maybe give them a chew toy. Okay, instead of biting your shirt, you can have this. Maybe you offer a chew toy, just something to replace what they're doing, because you're just telling them constantly stop doing something that they've been doing, and you have nothing. It probably won't work. So you kind of give an alternative, it's more likely to work. So, but if it's something like on the floor, I would just kind of put a pillow there and see if they may, it could be a sensory thing. Most kids are hitting their head on the floor. It's something that they've been doing, and it's a sensory. They like that feeling. And if it's not a sensory, you have to figure out why they're doing it. That's the first thing. If you have to figure out the function of why they're doing it. If it's for attention, maybe you can offer, hey, tapping, you can tap me. If it's a sensory thing, maybe something else to hit their head on. You just have to figure out what the function is of why they're hitting their head or why they're biting themselves. So, but the replacement behaviors, they're there. It's just kind of hard. Usually headbangers, when I see headbangers, it's usually for attention. They wanted something that they couldn't get, and so best way to get that what they wanted is they headbanged, and that definitely gets a person attention quickly.
So what if they act out on another child? Like, how do you, that's another child involved, so that other kid isn't gonna know, what.
Yes. So that is when you want to see, you got the precursors, you see that they're getting worked up. You guys, if you're engaged, you're close. Engagement, you can't engage from a distance. And that's usually, we have like bad RDTs who are, their kids all the way over there, you're over here, and their kid's getting attacked. When we're engaging, it's I'm in your personal space. That's part of our engagement. Unless you know this child does not like you that close, that's how close you should be. So if a child is attacking the other child, you should be so close that if they're hitting someone, you can block it that quick. I'm blocking. And then you can kind of maybe move the child back or remove the other child. But if you're that close, it shouldn't happen. Sometimes, it happens where a kid will get another kid, and then you just kind of talk through it, or give them that replacement behavior. You can ask for the toy back, or you can say, can I have a turn, or sharing. You kind of have that discussion. But if you're close enough, you'll probably stop it, unless it's one of those things where I'm getting attention from it. Had a kid also just like to hit kids just for the attention, because they got everybody worked up, and they were excited about everybody being worked up. And he only got kids who didn't listen to other people. So it's like you're doing something naughty to get back at someone else doing something naughty. So, but he would do that, and it's like, sometimes you wouldn't catch it. He would run as fast as he could, and you get a kid. You just don't catch it. Yeah, but you do your best. Kind of communicate, do the blocking, turn around. Hey, you can say this, you can do this, you can play with a toy, but we need to have nice hands and feet. But if you're engaged, that means you're in there. Especially if you know it's a kid who likes to hit other kids. That's something that you guys should know. Like I said, they don't always communicate that. But if you do know, hey, this kid likes to hit other kids, maybe that's somebody you should get a little closer to. And just be a little closer and know that they like to hit other kids. And then know that they're precursors. If they're getting a little worked up, maybe you need a break, maybe you need to just be a little closer and say, hey, share. Yes.
So about pinchers, or like my little guy would sometimes use me. He'll try to get my
Get the
skin
nail?
and like claw. Yeah.
So, those are the best way. Are you on an alternative, or what should you do?
In the heat of it.
Okay. In the heat of it, I would just try to remove myself. Back up. I had a pincher. Hey, we need to have nice hands and feet. If you want my attention, you can tap me. But I would just kind of remove myself and try not to get. Pinchers and scratchers are hard because it's like one of those things like, they're doing it so quickly. But if you just remove yourself and stay in the stance and kind of just avoid them until they get a little calmer, then get closer.
Is it likely that those pinchers or grabbers will pursue? Because I've had that experience where they just pursue you when you back off. So then what?
And that's when you just keep moving and backing up. You don't want to have any. You just keep backing up, keeping yourself away as best as you can until they're calmed down. You want to show no expression. It's ignoring. I'm ignoring what you're doing, so I don't reinforce it. And then next time you're like, ooh, I remember. I pinched her, I scratched her, and I liked her face. You were mad. So I'm going to try to make you mad again. So I'm just going to ignore it, back up, keep trying the best. You can try an alternative. with pinchers and scratchers, it's really hard. I just cut nails, cut them off, and keep them as short as possible. Because you'll be surprised, even as short as possible, they can still scratch you. But best you can do, just keep them their nails really short. And you can ask about that. Usually, you know, we don't really ask. We just kind of cut their nails, keep them short, because they're just one of those things. It's really hard. You just have to block and just keep backing up. You don't want to be pinched. You don't want to be scratched. Hey, you can have nice hands, and just keep blocking. Once you tell them to have nice hands and they just don't have their nice hands, you just keep backing up. Keep giving them space, and then when they're calm, hey, thanks for calming down, you can tell me what you want. And just tell them thanks for having nice hands. Kind of reinforce that good behavior of not scratching and pinching. Yes.
If they
That's a
choose
good
not
difference.
to, if they do happen to, like, let's say that you did have success with the backing off and they did stop, would it be appropriate to reinforce that they stopped? How would you reinforce?
Thanks for calming down. Thanks for having nice hands. I would reinforce all good behavior. Thanks for calming down.
Verbal and no other reinforcement?
Yeah, well, you can give reinforcement with anything you want. So depends on how you want to do it. Some people like edibles. Edibles always work for children. So you can instantly reinforce them having nice hands and not scratching, or you know, hey, I'll give you this Skittle. Hey, good job having nice hands. Good job having nice feet. You know, good job not scratching. And I'll give you something because you had nice hands. You didn't scratch. You didn't do this. So that's always great to me. And people don't always like that. Well, I'm giving you something. I'm giving you a reinforcement for not having this problem behavior. And I want to fix it. You know, I understand you're like, well, it doesn't really work that way. Well, if I don't want you to scratch me, I think I like it, so it's fine with me. So,
Reinforcement is so important.
yeah. And I always, and if it's, you know, if you want more than a verbal reinforcement, offer edible, offer a toy. Hey, thanks for calming down and not scratching, good job. And I would tell them what I'm reinforcing for. If it's scratching that I did not want them to do, I'm gonna make sure I'm saying the word scratching. Thanks for not scratching. I don't wanna reinforce them and say thank you. They don't know what I'm saying thank you for. I wanna make sure that they know why I'm thanking them and why I'm saying good job or awesome. You didn't scratch me. I'm gonna give you this because you didn't do it. Because a lot of people don't really, it's positive reinforcement. I'm going to praise you for everything positive, and not scratching is positive.
Okay, what if we have an individual who won't cooperate and they ignore us? And yet we are still providing, we have to make sure they're
Yeah.
at a certain zone of space.
We call that non-compliance.
Yes.
If, depending on what they are doing, so what kind of scenario would you like me to give them on what they will not listen to you for? This matter. Are you guys doing?
They don't want to listen to the lesson. They want to sit down with the other kids and sit and listen to the lesson.
They don't want to sit and listen? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Are they, where
They
are
wanna
they?
go
Like,
play
are they
with
just
it.
wanting to
Yes, they want to
run around in a
play.
room, or?
Or they want to leave, or they want to get in the toys, but everybody else is sitting down.
So, we consider that non-compliant. You want to block access to everything besides the lesson. So if the toys are back here and you're telling them to sit over here and they're trying to run this way, I'm gonna just keep blocking them, and I'll just say, hey, we can sit there. If you are going to allow them to maybe bring, sometimes it helps, bring a toy or one object, or maybe give you a choice. Hey, you can take one toy this time to sit, but you have to go over there and sit down. Or you can take something maybe that won't be as distracting. Some type of fidget toys. Fidget toys usually help. Those fidget, they can just play in their hand.
All kinds of options.
Yeah.
Yes, give them a fidget toy. Something that's not distracting, then you can just have them sit down and just give them one of those options and just keep blocking access. And they're just ignoring, if they're ignoring you, you just keep blocking everything until they're ready to listen. So I'm gonna keep blocking.
Is
And
that
if
gonna
there's,
aggravate them and escalate them?
it can, but we call this, it can aggravate them. And usually people get worked up before they calm down. So
Yes.
eventually they'll work up, it'll work them up, and eventually they'll know, okay, that didn't work. You don't want to do something like,
that's
okay,
good
I don't want to block the toys. this time, and then the next time I go and let you have those toys. And then the next time I'll let you have them, and then the next time I'm gonna block them again. You have to just be as consistent as possible. If I'm gonna block the toys, you can't play with the toys. They may escalate and get worked up. It's okay, just keep blocking.
So we're picking our battle at that point. So we might be actually trying to correct a behavior of screaming and volume on the same individual, but we're choosing to address the non-compliance instead of the volume, because the volume is gonna be there. So we're
Yes.
picking and choosing.
Yes,
what
if
you're saying.
you don't wanna hear the screaming and yelling, then you might wanna just have a toy selection of, hey, you can play with this toy. Maybe give an
Well, I'm not
alternative.
saying either way is right or wrong. I'm
Yeah.
saying, what I hear you saying is then we're choosing the blocking and allowing the escalating of
Mhm.
volume.
And
Because
that's where-
that's what we're trying to be
Yeah,
consistent on.
it's hard from coming from my standpoint,
Right.
because I'm gonna block the toys. Scream, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because eventually,
Yeah,
you will know that the screaming doesn't work. You're
Right.
kicking, you're screaming. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna get the toys. You have to do what I said first, then you can have the toys. And that's when you give those first then statements. First sit down, then you can have a toy. First, first this, then that. Give them that first then statement. You do this first, then I'll do this. And if you keep giving those first then statements, that usually helps. But it's like one of those battles where, and they call, it's a special word that they call it, but it's
Satiation. It's, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, usually they will get worked up, and then eventually they'll realize, oh, I'm not getting the toys during this time, I have to sit down. And eventually they'll stop, and then eventually they'll just go over there and sit and, have the toys.
so then we need the cooperation of the
Mhm.
classroom
You-
teacher to understand we're working for their benefit. So
It's
that's where we have
consistent.
to have those people to know what we're doing.
Yeah, you have to be consistent. You don't want to give in to something. Like I said, the example when I first came about the child in the store. Every time I go to the store, I'm going to kick and scream. I'll get that toy or I'll get this piece of candy. You keep giving in, they'll keep kicking and screaming every time. You'll stop. If you stop, yes, they'll kick and scream, but eventually they'll realize this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to stop. Maybe every blue moon, 2 months down the line, they'll kick and they'll scream and see, oh, I remember when I used to kick and scream, I got this toy. But if you keep consistent, no, you didn't get a toy. They should be consistent too. It's about your consistency, that everybody is on the same plan, that, hey, we are sitting down doing this lesson, we need to sit down. You can take a fidget toy and maybe give that option on which toy, but we can't play with the toys. You have to first listen to this, then go to this. So.